Hello. I am hoping you can hear me. I was having a little bit of issue with mic, but I think I got it fixed. So I am so excited to be here talking about GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call it. That is one of my love languages and have found its way into the classroom. And so I'm super excited to share about that. So I am Ariel Jankard, and I am actually going to be an instructional coach this coming school year. The last year spent teaching. Awesome. Good to hear. Was teaching STEM this past year, which was quite a year to be teaching STEM during COVID and not being able to touch anything and all of that. But with technology, we had a lot of fun and we're still able to do some really cool stuff. And that's kind of where I was able to bring in a lot of the GIFs and have done it K-5 really. So all right, I think I'm back on. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Just all of a sudden it said lost. So I think we're back on. But anyways, we are going to dive in and talk about, first I'm just going to do a quick overview of getting GIFs into Google, a couple different ways. And then we will look at some applicable ways to the classroom, bring it in with your students. And so we'll dig into that. So just really quickly, I'm going to go over kind of the logistics part of getting GIFs in. And if you want the link to my presentation, that bit.ly link right there gives you access to this presentation that I will be going through today. It does have some YouTube tutorial videos built into it that you can watch later. Some of them are instructional on like how to add the GIF if you want to go back and watch. And then some of them are just ideas and kind of how I've used it in the classroom. So yeah, you can rewatch this on YouTube, or if you like shorter segments, it's kind of built into the presentation. So you can kind of choose, but that bit.ly link will get you this exact presentation if you're interested. So the Giphy in Gmail is just a quick little thing I want to go over because I love communicating with GIFs. My husband and I can have entire text conversations back and forth without any actual text. We can just go GIF back and forth, and it's a lot of fun. But what I think sometimes happens when we use text and we talk to people via text or email, sometimes what we're saying can get misconstrued, right? Like we might be being sarcastic in our email and we might think that they'll get it. They know us well enough. And they don't get it. And maybe something gets read wrong. And I'm talking more colleagues. I wouldn't use this with parents, but it's kind of a fun way to communicate and actually build a relationship more than just using text. You can use GIFs in your emails with one another. So it's a lot of fun. But a quick way to be able to drop a GIF into Gmail is by using the Chrome extension. And so I just have the instructions laid out here, but basically you're just going to go through the Chrome Web Store and add it as a Chrome extension. And then it will pop up, as you can see, that little yellow, I've kind of got it ghosted over the Giphy logo, will pop up when you open a email to compose. So once you click compose, then that little icon is there and you can add a GIF directly into your email without having to open another tab and copy and pasting links and all of that. It's really easy to add in there. Kind of like when you might use it on your phone where you can just drop it in really quickly, search within your text app. This kind of works like that, where you can just do it right there within the email. So that I know is really helpful. So just kind of a quick thing to keep in mind. But we're kind of focused on the classroom. So we are going to be looking at really adding GIFs into Google Slides. And you can add GIFs into other of the Google products, but I'm going to focus on Slides because that's what I use for instruction mostly. But you can see how it's used in other, it's the same process. Just kind of, if you want to follow along while I'm doing this, you can. And so that's why I just have like a simple way to open up a blank Google Slides here. The quickest way for me is just opening a new tab and clicking slides.new. If you didn't know that trick, it's pretty quick to just start a new presentation, slides.new. If you're logged into Google, it'll just open it right up. If you haven't logged in yet, then it will ask you to log in first. But that is kind of a quick way to get a blank presentation. And then when I want to bring a GIF into Google Slides, I'm going to use another tab to bring in that GIF. I love the site Giphy. So it's Giphy. And that's just my favorite site. There are some other sites out there, and I'm actually going to show you a few ones that might be great to use for instructional use, but we're going to use this just for our general use. And I'm going to put in happy because that's how I'm feeling right now, because I get to share my love of GIFs in the classroom. So I can choose from any of these here, and I will show you how to do that. Just quick side note before I go any further with Giphy, I would not send any of my students to Giphy.com directly. That doesn't mean that they already, they may already know about it, they may already use it, but especially elementary and really even middle school, I wouldn't even go there. High school, I don't know. That's probably something you need to look through. I mean, you can even see right here, not super appropriate. And I'm not sure how many filters would be able to catch the text on top of the GIF. So just something to keep in mind. Don't send your kids to Giphy.com. I'm going to give you some options for allowing kids to have choice with GIFs and using them without going to Giphy.com. So this is just one for happy. I like to use this one. So you would click copy link because we're going to actually insert this as a URL into Google Slides. So when you click on copy link, there's two options. It says short link and GIF link. The problem with the short link is it will not work. So don't use that when you're inserting in Google Slides. You'll want to get the long original link there, and then you'll just copy that link. And then I'm going to go to that blank presentation that I opened a little while ago, and I'm going to insert it. So I'll go up to the top and click insert, and we're actually inserting as an image. So I know that seems kind of silly because GIFs feel like videos, but they're not. They're just basically an animated photo. So we're going to go through image and then the choice of by URL, and I will paste that GIF link that I just grabbed from Giphy. Now you'll get a little preview link. So at this point, if you grabbed the short link, it would tell you it's not working. Just go back to Giphy and try again. But this kind of lets you know whether it's working or not. And then you'll just click that insert button, and now it's on Google Slides. And at this point, you can resize and move it around and all that good stuff. And so now that we know how to do the logistics of getting it into Google Slides, we'll get into the good stuff, which is how do we use this in our classroom. So I'm going to jump back here. And those directions, in case you forget or fell behind, are right there spelled out. So you find your GIF on a site like Giphy.com, go to Google Slides, click insert image, select by URL, paste in your URL that you copied, click insert, move and adjust. So those are all there. And then I also have, you'll see if you got the presentation link, which I can drop probably in the comments later, there is a little quick video of me doing that. So again, if you don't want to watch the whole YouTube video again and you want to come back, you can just click on that little tutorial. So let's talk about how we use this. So teachers using GIFs. You can totally change the mood of a lesson by adding GIFs. So even if it's just like this one where I added genius, we're using GIFs, just that alone can get kids excited. It's so funny. They love GIFs. They're mesmerized by them. I would say all the way down to little 5-year-olds are mesmerized by them, but even the high schoolers will get a good kick out of it. It is a great visual for students. And so using GIFs to connect to vocabulary, to content knowledge, and really expressing feelings, whether it's a character in a story you're reading or expressing our feelings, GIFs are just so much more rich than a still image. And I think they're super powerful. I'm going to show you a few examples also of how and why you would want to create your own GIF. You can tailor it to exactly what you need it for. Sometimes I'm searching and searching and searching, and I can't find the GIF that I need. And so I've actually created some GIFs of my own. And so we'll look at why we would do that and give you some resources for how you can do that. But there are lots of possibilities here. So we also can look at how students can use GIFs. Now, like I said, kindergarten through, I mean, really the age of 13 is kind of where we get to. We can use some of those websites. But you can basically pre-choose GIFs, have multiple options for them to choose from, to sort from, to move around, to delete, get rid of, and still keep them safe, keep them moderated in a sense. So a little simple example here, I have 2 GIFs here, and I have the question, how do you feel about using GIFs in the classroom so far? And they could choose. So they could use the circle draw tool, and they could put a circle around the one that they are feeling, or they could just simply delete the one that doesn't match how they're feeling about something. So you can put multiple GIFs on a slide and allow students to use the GIFs that you've kind of pre-chosen to still kind of feel like they have some choice involved with the GIFs. So again, we mentioned like how we're feeling, how characters feeling, explaining concepts. They can use all those things too. Depending on the, devices that you have, the access to what apps and free reign on the web that your students have, there are some like Giphy.com is probably not good for students creating their GIFs, but there are some very simplified web versions of creating a GIF that doesn't require an account, and it's super simple. It's kind of one of those things like if they get in the middle and it freezes or crashes on them, they have to start over. But it would be possible for students to create their own GIF in safely. But you can also, again, depending on your device, I know Apple Keynote, you can create little animated GIFs. And even just in the Apple camera roll, you can create GIFs. So there are still ways that students can create GIFs, but it's definitely a little bit trickier to manage with all the different devices. I'm not going to go into that just because it's hard to know what people have access to. And sometimes you get all excited, you go back and your tech director is like, nope, you can't do that. So I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but there are possibilities out there, even with working with younger kids. I left this on. This was more part of a general Google presentation before, but I left this in here because I am surprised at how many people aren't really familiar with what used to be called Edit Master mode in Google Slides. It is now called Edit Theme, and it still has a little button that says updated next to it. So it's pretty fresh, just the change in the name. But what's really cool is you can create a lot of interactive activities for students in Google Slides. I love Nearpod, and Nearpod, in my opinion, makes it a lot easier. I love Seesaw. I also love that Seesaw, you can lock different objects that you don't want students to accidentally move. Google Slides does not have a lock feature. However, they do allow you to go to this theme mode where you can kind of lock things in place. Now, technically, a student could get into edit theme if they knew that, and they could change it, but kids aren't usually looking to destroy an assignment. It's done by accident, right? Like they're dragging a text box and they accidentally select the circle from your Venn diagram and it disappears. And then the whole activity is kind of like, we just got to reset you, so edit theme kind of allows you to avoid that. So I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like and what I'm talking about. So this is this is a science example assignment. And you'll see when I click, I'm in edit mode in Google, but when I click on this GIF, you don't get the little edit boxes. I cannot change sides. I cannot move this around. That's because I actually layered it in the theme. And so the students can't accidentally delete the GIF. Okay. So the button that I'm talking about is under slide. So when you go to slide, and like I said, this used to say edit master. So if you've heard that before, yes, it was edit master at one time. It's now edit theme. But I'm going to click on that. And you'll see now that there's this dark gray kind of around my slide. That kind of is your hint that you're in this edit theme mode. And when you're in the edit theme mode, there's a few things different. It's a little bit harder to get a sequence of, you can't really drag and drop these things around. So it's a little trickier. I love that I can, now I want to move that slide here, and you can, but you have to do it out in this area out here. So you'll see now when I click on that GIF, I have the boxes. I can make it bigger, smaller. I can move it around. So this is edit theme mode. So I'm going to exit back out of that. And you'll see this is that normal editing mode, which is the mode that students would have to use in order to interact with your activity or content. So for example, on this next slide, I have a text box where I want them to answer this question. What do you know about force and motion? If they're in present mode, they can't actually type there. But here they can go in and they can type their answer right in the box. So there I have another GIF there. They can type in their answer here. Everything kind of in the background is in that theme mode, but I wanted this text box, I edited in this mode. So kind of getting used to balancing those two. It's a way of locking things so students don't accidentally delete something or move something that's going to kind of mess up the activity. So that's kind of something important that I want people to realize when they are creating. So that's why I left these slides in there. So again, if you got this presentation link at the beginning, then you can kind of look through some examples that I have here. I do have some tutorial videos more. If you're like, whoa, that was like, I've never seen that before. I don't know what that was. I have way more in-depth tutorials built into this presentation that you can go back and watch and see some more examples of templates and stuff that I've created for the classroom. Okay, so kind of switching back gears back to our GIFs, our love of GIFs. I'm going to start with kind of creating your own GIFs and how you do that, maybe why you would do that. So it's kind of funny when you put yourself in a GIF, kids think you're famous. They're like, oh my gosh, you're in a GIF. So it's super kind of fun to put yourself in there if you feel comfortable. But the most important thing is you can really tailor the gift for your need. So like I said, sometimes I'm looking and I just can't find exactly what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to kind of show you some ones that I've created and maybe why. So they can be procedural, content-based, and SEL is a great way to pull in GIFs. I will show you just in a second how to create one using Google Slides. You can create a GIF in Google Slides. It does require having a Chrome extension Creator Studio. So again, that's kind of another option for kids creating a GIF, depending on how locked down your Chrome extensions are. If your students kind of have free reign on Chrome extensions, Creator Studio is a simple one to add on where they can make their slides into a GIF. If not, then that's just an option for you as a teacher. And an example of one that I use in Google Slides I have on the next slide, so we'll come back to that. Some apps that I've used is Giphy. So they have the web version that I've kind of already showed you. They also have an app where you can create GIFs and download GIFs. One that I love is the Reface app. And my younger sister actually sent this to me. She's in college. But the bottom right one you may recognize, I don't know if you do, but Tina Fey from SNL when she was being Sarah Palin during that election. But if you look closely, you might think that that face does not look like Tina Fey or Sarah Palin because it's not. It's actually my face on there. So Reface is a fun app where you can take GIFs that have already been created, but you can put your face on it. And there's ones with multiple pictures. So, if you have a code teacher or something and you want to put both of your faces on something, I've seen teachers where they've used GIFs as like stickers. So like on an assignment, they add a GIF to say like, good job. So if you use the Reface app and you put your face on one like this, you could use it as a sticker and then it's your face. The kids will notice because a lot of times they don't know who that originally was. So they're like, wow, Mrs. Jenkins, that's a cool pink suit. No, not mine. And then the top one there that you see the flower, that was made in Pixar Animator that I also listed as an app. That was just done on my phone. It's not super pretty, but that is similar to what you can create in Google Slides, and you could create something similar to that in Keynote. So if you are able to use the Chrome extension or you have Apple devices, you can create a really similar thing to that flower animation I just drew. So you kind of stop animation, you draw each step and you add like all the frames and then you convert it to a GIF. So those are two that I use. And then the last one I used Giphy. That's actually my kids and my husband that I just made. I just took a short video from my camera roll and made it into a GIF and added the text. So I was just kind of showing you how you can take a video and add text to it. I don't know if you can see in there, my husband had the brilliant idea to put a wiffle ball on the end of a fishing pole, and he held it out in front of my kids would hit it off of the fishing pole and it would go, and then he would reel in and they had to get back to home base by the time he reeled it in. So then I added the text "Dad wins" on it, just as something fun. So an example of what it would look like if you made a Giphy. This is the steps for creating a GIF in Google Slides. It walks you through the steps of first downloading the Chrome extension Creator Studio, and then what Creator Studio looks like, and you create your slide. So each one of these still images was a different slide in Google Slides. And then once you get the Creator Studio added, you can change the time for each slide. So I think this is set at 2 seconds. So you can make them shorter, you can make them longer, and you just click go. And it saves to your Google Drive. So it just automatically saves to your Google Drive. It does not ask you where you want to save it. So just FYI, you might click go and go, where did it go? It creates a folder called Creator Studio in your Drive. So that's where you'll find it. But it just automatically sends there. And then one thing I found when I was using it, if you make a change, so if you open Creator Studio and you're getting ready to click go, and then you notice a typo and you go back and you change something on one of your slides, you need to close out of Creator Studio and reopen it, because when you open Creator Studio, it processes everything on the slide. So any edits you make after you open Creator Studio, it doesn't update. So don't open the add-on Creator Studio until you are completely done with all your still images. So I just took screenshots of the different steps in creating a GIF for Google Slides, and then added the arrow and some text and whatever. So similar, if you wanted to create some kind of technology explanation, you could take screenshots. The other thing is you could take a quick screencast. And a lot of like Giphy.com, you could take a quick screencast and turn it into a GIF. And you might think, well, what's the difference if I make a quick screencast? Why would I want it to be a GIF instead of just having a video? I don't know about you, but I think this is super simple to have this just auto playing on loop on the Google slide. Sometimes when we add tutorial videos, kids don't click the play button. You know, you're like, they know what the play button is. They definitely know how to use it and all that stuff. They've had lots of experience at this point. Most, I would say, a year ago, I wouldn't have said the same thing. But now, after COVID, these kids know what the play button, they know how to work all the tools on that. However, if it's a quick thing like this, we don't really need them to pause and rewind and whatever. This whole little GIF is, I think, 12 seconds long. So if they need step 3, they can wait 6 seconds to get to re-see step 3. So I just like that this auto plays on loop and keeps going versus inserting a whole video. I also don't think it takes up as much space, probably quicker to load than loading a full video, right? And then sometimes we have issues with sharing and privacy, and YouTube doesn't want to show it on Google Slides. So it just kind of avoids a lot of that, which is awesome. So that first example of why we would create or use GIFs in the classroom is procedural, okay? It's like flight attendants, right? Sometimes we feel like flight attendants, we are repeating directions over and over and over, and routines that we, kind of get to the point where like, oh, they just know it. We just expect them to know how to do it. This is kind of a fun way to share procedures and routines. I will say, it definitely makes it easier if they're technology procedures, because you just can put them right there in the corner of their assignment. But another idea is to have a QR code attached to the GIF that you created to that routine or procedure, and have the QR code in the place of where that would make sense. Okay, for example, one of the procedures I used long ago when I was annoyed that my 4th graders were not putting their names on their paper, I'd come across this idea of having the kids highlight their name before they put it in the tray. And so I had this highlighter dangling from my cabinet right in front of the tray. So like if you go to hand in your paper, you would actually run into the string where the highlighter was hanging. So it would remind them, oh, I need to check and see if I have my name on my paper. And then when they go, oh, I don't have my name on paper, there was also a thing of pencils right there. They would write their name, highlight it, and then put it in the tray. Simple routine, right? It's something I trained them to do, highlight their name every time they went to turn in their paper, just as that double check that they did have their name on it. So you could have a QR code there. And if they ever forget or they don't remember, you can say, hey, I need you to watch that. Instead of you spending 5 minutes going over, hey, remember, this is our routine, you could ask them to watch that video. And if it's a GIF, it's really quick. There's no sound. It just replays. Okay, I got it. So I don't know how useful that is, but like sometimes I just wanted the kids to have that ownership of like, I can solve this problem. Like if I don't remember this routine, I know where I can go and get the answer instead of interrupting my teacher. So if they know like, hey, I don't really remember the routine for this, they know they can scan a QR code. They can take ownership over that instead of interrupting you or taking up your time. So I think just teaching kids to solve those own problems and you provide all those things and the expectations are clear. I think it also would be super fun to involve your kids with creating these. So instead of them being you modeling the routine, you could have your students get involved. And again, you would create the GIF, but you could have them in the still images that you put together or the video that you put together. I think they would really like that. You can also animate on a photo. So if you don't really have like photos of steps, maybe you want to remind them where something is or where to turn something in. You could take a picture of your classroom or that area, and then you can actually draw arrows. And then the animation on top of that photo would be what makes it a GIF. So that PixArt animator that I mentioned on the slide before would be good for that. You can also use Keynote and Google Slides. And then we already talked about technology tutorials. So again, compiling screenshots or quick screencasts, turn them into GIFs, add them to the assignment, and hopefully you've got their attention now. The next thing is content-based. And, you know, that's what we're here for, right? We teach kids. And so there's tons of ways that you can bring in GIFs, math concepts, science phenomenon, vocabulary, writing prompts, character traits, responding to text. When I think of responding to text, I think of, if you've ever heard Tara Martin and her book snaps, I feel like GIFs take it to a whole nother level. So the idea of book snaps, of using like emojis and text boxes and drawing tools on a text to annotate. But if they can add GIFs in there as well to share their learning and what they're thinking about the text, would be super fun. I do want to show you 2 websites, and they are linked later on the resources tab on this presentation, but I want to show you them. Oh, we lost that one. We'll see if we can reload it. So this one is for science, and this is phenomena for NGSS. So if you teach NGSS, which I assume most of us do at this point, there are some still images in here, but there are also GIFs built in. And the idea of engaging students through science phenomena is the idea of like not just front loading so much students on science and it's boring, but having them watch something that happens in the real world and making assumptions and inferences, and then working through as they learn those science concepts to better understand this. And as they dig into the science, they start to be able to explain the science phenomena. So there are some great GIFs in here to choose from to explain some science phenomena. And I just thought this was a really cool site. I've used it before, but it'd been a while. And so it was kind of fun to dig back in here. And you can search up at the top. I believe you can break it down by concept and grade level, I believe. So that's a cool site to check out, ones that are already created for you, which is nice. And then there's this math site as well that has math GIFs. So if you're looking for explanation of a math concept, there's some quick little GIFs built in here that help explain concepts. But I also thought, man, this gave me a lot of ideas on simple GIFs that I could create to explain math concepts as well. So there are lots of great examples in here that you can use, or maybe just inspiration to creating your own. But those are both linked in the presentation under resources. So if you want to look at that. And then the last one, kind of going back, I kind of already glanced at this, but kind of going at it with another lens instead of looking for the edit theme, I'm now looking at the actual GIFs that I had put in here. So this GIF on the first page is kind of that science phenomena of like dropping this heavy weight and it comes right back to where it was dropped from. And then kind of starting to build some inferences about that. And then kind of using GIF on this side is not so much content based, but I did add the words force and motion. I should just use text boxes. You'll see in Google and overlaid it on top of the GIF. So I just thought that was fun, but you know, kind of modeling that thinking. Take a moment, think about what do you know about force and motion. And then I'll kind of skip down here. I took 2 GIFs and I asked them which GIF demonstrates the principles of gravity. And so they would look at these 2 GIFs. Well, we have Lydia from Beetlejuice who is not touching the ground. So obviously that is not demonstrating gravity. Then we have Barack Obama dropping the mic and it's falling to the ground, which does exhibit gravity. So kind of another example of how we can kind of bring in some real world examples. Really quick. They don't have to hit play. They're just going. You know, that looping allows them, I think, to think about it over and over. Kids probably aren't going to push play 5-6 times to watch it over and over and really think about it. So I just love this. You know, you can have 2 side by side. They can be looking at them. And then I have the text box down below for them to respond in. So that's kind of a way that I brought in that science and some other concept based. And then I have an example there of just a way that you can start writing prompts. Sorry, it's taken a second to load there, but this silly little squirrel on a water ski. And I believe those are guitars that look like a medal to me. So I don't know what guitars have to do with this, but maybe the kids can come up with something. But I came up with a prompt to write a story about the day this squirrel won first place in the water skiing event at the Animal Olympics. So just a fun way to engage kids. And I've used picture prompts before. But I mean, come on, look at the squirrel. That's adorable. And I feel like sometimes with GIFs, you get a little more, right? Like in an image, you're having to make up a lot. But in a GIF, you can kind of see like his demeanor and see how he's feeling and body language. And there's maybe a little bit more there that they can build on to write their story. And then just as an FYI on that, I have click image, but if you click on that force and motion, it should take you to that presentation that I've shown you a couple of times. So even if you want to dig more into that or kind of look around and play around with that. So it's there for you if you wanted to look more at that. So I wanted to talk specifically more about vocabulary because I feel like that's a not fun thing to teach. At least I didn't love teaching vocabulary. It's fun to kind of dig into words, but like it can get mundane. So whether you're just teaching like tier 2 vocabulary to, you know, expand upon comprehension, or if you are building content specific vocabulary. I was even thinking the other day when I was working on this, I even thought, you know, prefixes and suffixes. I feel like with the push of the science of reading, we're really digging into those more, which I am super excited about. But you could even do this with just prefixes and suffixes and kind of connect an image to those prefixes and suffixes to really bring them to life. But if I were to use some kind of template, as I've talked about, I may have the GIFs in that edit theme so that they can't move the GIFs, but maybe I have the words as text boxes and they could drag the words over onto the one that matches that vocabulary word. Or they could use like the drawing tool and they could draw a line from frustrated to that GIF that matches it. And again, I would have to be in edit mode to do that kind of stuff. So I could use and have the students use any of these tools, which again, at this point, hopefully they're pretty well trained. But if not, you just teach them that you have to be in edit mode to do those things. But then you can have them drag and drop those words or draw the line. Another socially emotional, or I guess is the first one. So jumping to socially emotional, I kind of mentioned the book characters, but jumping to social emotional, one of the things that I did in morning meetings, we used the zones of regulation in first grade, and we would identify where we were in the zones of regulation. And so just a kind of another way of spicing things up, adding a GIF to those zones of regulation so that they have a way to identify their feelings. In first grade especially, they really struggle with finding the right words for how they're feeling. Now, these 4, I mean, while the zones have 4 zones, there's a lot of things that could be going on in that zone. Even as the blue zone, a lot of times talk about tired or feeling sick or something like that. That may look and feel different for each kid and at different times of the day. But for the most part, you can kind of help them identify where they're at through images and GIFs, just making it a little more fun. But I loved using images to identify feelings. So we would even practice, a lot of SEL programs will have you just like show an image and have the students identify how they think that student is feeling. And so by doing that with a GIF, you can really read more into it because you can see a lot more of their body language as they move a little bit. So it's just another fun way to kind of spice it up and do something a little different. Another SEL, I was just talking about that, identifying emotions, but another thing is like sorting emotions. So even if you have like sad and angry, and they could move the GIFs and they could drag and drop the GIFs to the side of the sort. And matching events, like we talk about cause and effect a lot, especially with the choices that we make. So this kind of gets into that. You get to school and realize you left your homework sitting on your kitchen counter at home. How are you feeling? So you could do some scenario based things where, this is what happened. How would that make someone feel? And just really building empathy and helping students understand that people may even respond differently to this. The GIF here of the guy going, man, like whatever. Some of them may feel that way. And then there's going to be some that are angry, and there's going to be some kids that cry. I don't know that anybody would be like super excited. I'd be a little concerned if they were, but it's still offering a range of emotions and allow this to be a talking point with students of, if this happened to you, how would you feel? And then you can stem from there, how do you deal with that emotion? What can you do to overcome that emotion? It's okay to feel that emotion, but then what do we do to move forward? And so there's just so many conversations that can come out of this. And again, I think these are so much more meaningful. Like when I just look at these, they just make me smile. Versus if I had still images, it was what I used to use. It helped, but I just feel like there's so much more emotion involved with this. And it feels so much more real. And then the last SEL kind of example, this is kind of another morning meeting maybe way, but I feel like it's good relationship building. I actually got this example from a 4th grade teacher. I went into her room this year and I just loved it. And I was thinking, man, if I was still like had my own classroom, I'd totally be doing this. But she did meme of the week. So she didn't do GIF, but she had a board under her morning meeting stuff. And it was like meme of the week. And so she would kind of post a prompt like, this week is map testing. And then they would pick a meme to match, the feeling of map testing week. Another example is when you realize only 3 days more until winter break. And then the kids, they worked together to choose the meme. So they searched up memes and they found one that matched that prompt that she kind of prompted for that week. And they may have worked together even to create the prompt, but I thought that was super cool. And another fun way, especially as we move towards more digital, I know I had moved my morning meeting. It wasn't so much on my wall anymore. It was Google Slides. And so to me, the GIF would work just as well to do that and have kind of a GIF of the week to match how we were feeling. So I just thought that was super fun. So we're kind of at the end here. I do have some resources. There's 2 great Facebook groups. This presentation is sponsored by the GEG Kansas group. And so there is a Facebook group for GEG Virtual, just lots of ways of using Google in general. And then digital resources for distance learning. There's probably a million groups at this point, probably a million different Google groups at this point on Facebook. But sometimes I really like the Facebook groups. I'm not a huge Facebook person, but there are some great education groups that I've gotten amazing ideas from. So it's a good way to connect. But this other site I wanted to show is something that I actually just came across. I haven't used it with students, but I think it would be relatively simple and I feel really safe about it. So this site, some teachers said, hey, we want our students to be able to select GIFs, but we're not going to send them to Giphy.com, just like I said to you. And so you scroll down, the site's a little strange. You scroll down, it kind of explains why they did what they did, and then some things that are coming soon, which kind of sounded exciting. But then down at the bottom, there is a repository of GIFs. And these have been selected by the educators that run this website. So they are all, I've scanned through them. They all look great, very kid friendly. So this is a way you could allow your students to do some GIF selection, which is exciting. So down at the bottom, you'll see there's a little text search box. You can search in there. Now, if you remember earlier when I searched happy on Giphy.com, a lot more came up. This one earlier, I searched happy and 2 came up. So let's see if I do excited. Nothing came up. Let's see. So the search is not great, but I think the kids will be able to. Oh, now we're like frozen. All right, I'm going to leave that alone because it's frozen. But they can just sort through, scan through and find it. I mean, it's still a great way to kind of safely give your kids a place where they can grab some. So it works similar to Giphy, where you need the URL, okay, to insert it into Google Slides. So I go to the Giphy that I want, and I'm going to do a right click, and then I will go to copy image address. So again, you might have to kind of train the kids address URL, because when they go to Google Slides, it's going to ask for a URL. So, you know, all that little training for our little people. And then when we go to Google Slides, we'll follow those same steps of insert, image, and then by URL. So we just grabbed that link from the website. I'm going to paste it in there. And then hopefully it'll give me a little preview here. My internet must be slowing down. Maybe my kids got on something. Got too many GIFs going on. Well, anyways, it's loading super slow. I think I've bogged down my computer. But just again, clicking on that image, copy image address. Then when I go to Google Slides, insert image by URL. There we go. It's working now. And I can click insert. So functions very similarly to the Giphy.com. We just need that URL to tag it to that image. All right. And let's see. So yeah, great site for kids. And then if you have a suggestion, they actually have a space on there for teachers. If you have a GIF that you want submitted to this site, they have a GIF submission form. So if you don't see something on there that maybe a GIF that you love, or maybe that you created or your students created that you think other people would love, you can actually submit it there. So that's kind of something to think about too. But I was super excited about this. I thought that was a great find. Let's see here. I think we are. The next slide has that science phenomenon site and the math animated GIFs as well. So if you wanted to go back to those, they are linked there. Now, the last part, again, I kind of repurposed this presentation and left in some chunks of it because it may be helpful to you. So that templates section and then this section on how to export your Google Slides. So I know a lot of us are creating things in Google Slides and then it's like, okay, what do I do with it now? So lots of different ways you can get it to students, publishing it to the web, putting it in Google Classroom or an image, and then an LMS as well. So all those directions are there. If you need anything from me or you have ideas as well, I see Peggy in here, but if you have other ideas that you love and have used, tweet it out to the world. I know people love GIF ideas. So I think a lot of people love using GIFs. So the more we share how we can do it, the more fun it is for our kids. But if you want to email me directly, feel free to mrsjankard@gmail.com. And then I think you'll get a feedback form that's connected to this. So if you watch this, feel free to fill out the Google form as well and give that feedback. It's always helpful. And then you have this YouTube video that you can always come back to and the presentation as well. I'm going to jump back maybe to the very first slide if you want the link presentation. And that link is right there, and I'll put it in the chat or on the YouTube video as well. So thanks again for joining me and have a wonderful July day.